शताब्दी समारोह के अवसर पर उपस्थित सभी भाग्यशाली साधक वृंदों को आदरपूर्वक प्रणाम। हम सभी जानते हैं कि श्री गुरुदेव इस भारत भूमि पर 67 साल पहले एक जगत विख्यात दार्शनिक, अध्यापक, संत, चिकित्सा जगत के लिए एक चमत्कार तथा दुनिया भर में फैले अपने हजारों अनुयायियों को तारण करता एवं एक मार्गदर्शक प्रकाश के रूप में थे, हैं, अभी हैं और हमेशा रहेंगे। He expounded the teachings of Indian saints by not only studying ancient religious texts from various parts of India, but also from European philosophers and saints, comparing their thoughts to show the similarities. Also, Sri Gurudev, Dr. R.D. Ranade, in his very inherent and intrinsic style of reconciliation, has done the voluminous and next to impossible job for any human being to put forth the teachings, spiritual experiences and mystical thoughts of Indian sages and saints, and comparing them to Western philosophers like Kant for unity of our perception, Spinoza for theory of attributes, that is for the Nama and Rupa, Aristotle for description of the highest reality, and many others. This is just a few which I have mentioned here. Okay. So, next slide. Here, sorry. Okay, yeah. Thank you. Okay. Okay. So while a universal definition of religion eludes many scholars, the idea of one God, one humanity and one world, propounded by Sri Gurudev Dr. R.D. Ranade, forms a critical approach to contemporary global challenges and social harmony. This paper explores his teachings in the context of his philosophy and its application in the modern world. To explore relevance of spiritual experiences on society, Sri Gurudev propounded mysticism as a science of God realization. How mysticism leads to God realization and its effect on society, which leads to spiritual communism and a secular state. With the spirit of Indian philosophy at its kernel, all humanity might meet in the philosophy of spirit. God realization is not merely poetry or of the saints or something in the ancient religious texts, but it is achievable. Spiritual realization is the manifest destiny of man, that is though living and while living. God is that energy which lights the bulbs of human souls, and to achieve God for oneself and for others. So this is the short sequence that we are going to see today. Right, we saw this just. Now, intuition, the mystical faculty. The question may be raised as to whether there is any such faculty by which this realization of the self is actually possible. Indian seers have said that there is such a faculty, and that is the faculty of intuition. It is not a mere sense of life as modern philosophers have understood it. It is the faculty of mystical realization. It lies at the back of all the faculties in man which ordinary psychology recognizes. Instead of contradicting intelligence, feeling and will, it lies at the back of them all. Mysticism denotes that attitude of mind which involves a direct, immediate, first-hand and intuitive apprehension of God. When mysticism is understood in this sense, there is no reason why it should be taken to signify any occult or mysterious phenomena. It is the highest attitude of man which is capable, that is a restful and loving contemplation of God. Mysticism implies a silent enjoyment of God, and in this sense, mystical experience is many a times regarded as ineffable and indescribable. This ineffable character of mystical experience is closely linked with its intuitional character. Now, it is a matter of common knowledge that even for heights to be reached in artistic or scientific or poetic activities, a certain amount of direct and immediate contact with the reality, that is God, is required. And far more is this the case in the matter of mystical realization. Thus we see that not mere intellect is sufficient. Intuition is so far not contradicting intelligence, feeling, or will, but it penetrates and lies at the back of them all. Unless the emotions are purified and turned towards the service of God, no seeing Him face to face is possible. That is the process of divine knowledge and faculty which all possess but few use, that is the seed of the diaphragm nature, which is the human soul. Now, to follow the mystical path in order to achieve God realization, absolute, moksha, reality, is the global teaching of all the prophets across the religions, all countries, since time immemorial. Now, how humanity can be made one. Also, just one small thing, that there will be many QR codes. This will lead to the books from which these teachings of Sri Gurudev have been taken. So if you scan these QR codes, they will be available online. So, how humanity can be made one. This was the subject of the third lecture delivered by Sri Gurudev, Dr. R.D. Ranade at Ahmedabad in 1947. It has been divided into 4 sections, which we can see on the left. Now, mysticism alone is capable of accomplishing the great task of developing a feeling of brotherhood among people by giving men a breadth of outlook, both intellectual and emotional, and which will demolish the barriers and sow the seeds of unity among them. Mystics across the world have described their personal and spiritual experiences. Upon careful study of their literature, we understand and realize that there is a silken thread of this glorious philosophy of mysticism that will bind humanity in a friendly embrace. Now, is mysticism achievable in today's world? Are there any steps to follow? Yes, Sri Gurudev has given very clear scientific steps. There is no reason for any confusion, or is it really possible? Is it for me? Is it only for the saints? Okay. So what is the object of this mystical path? God is the object of this mystical realization, and it is a spiritual force that is eminent in the whole universe and holds it together. But a seeker with a scientific outlook need not accept it in the beginning as the gospel truth. He may simply accept it as a hypothesis, as a basis for his future experiments. As a result of this experiment, which is the sadhana, the meditation, which is dirgha, nairyantar, and satkaryukta, if he gains an actual glimpse of reality, the hypothesis will automatically become true, and hence, in mysticism, there is no room for blind belief. Okay. So, mysticism as a science of God realization. Dr. R.D. Ranade propounded mysticism as a science of God realization, and this is a very vital contribution of Sri Gurudev towards the formation and fulfillment of his ideal of one God, one religion, and one humanity. So, the imagination of the mystic should be very powerful and have a penetrating, accurate, and unfaltering intellect. The mystical life, though supremely emotional, the emotions ought to be kept under the control of the intellect. Now we see criteria of spiritual experience. Universality is another chief criteria of spiritual experience. The mystics of all ages and countries have spoken the same language, as they are the denizens of the same spiritual world. There is no racial, no communal or national prejudices among them. Time and space have nothing to do with the eternal and infinite character of their mystical experience. Sri Gurudev writes, the cumulative experience of the mystics of the East and West would prove that there is a certain amount of universality in their mystical experience. They have the same teachings about the name of God, the fire of devotion, the nature of self-realization. We see certain common characteristics on the pathway which all the mystics have trodden in the attainment of God. Next we see effects of God realization on the society. A saint who has realized God cannot remain to himself. Saints who enjoy divine bliss consider their sacred duty to impart the same to their followers. The saints become responsible for the spreading of God's gospel. Even contemporary philosophers have stressed the value of such a society of saints. Communion has been and is an essential feature of the Christian religion also. So far as utility of the mystic to the society is concerned, we may also regard it as a truism of mysticism that a mystic is of supreme value to the mankind by calling their attention from moment to moment to the perception and greatness of God. Again, one has to remember that the mission of such a realizer is to spread one humanity, one God and one world whenever and wherever it becomes possible for him to do so. And that should be his maxim, theopolity and doctrine. Okay, next we see secular state. So this was the speech given by Sir Dr. Radhakrishnan at Delhi during the inauguration of the book Paramartha Sopan, written by Sri Gurudev. And here he has mentioned, where philosophy has been seriously pursued, whatever religion has been understood, in the truest sense of the word, it has meant the study of the true nature of self. The Upanishads say, however far you may go, there is something beyond. The limits of the self are unreachable. There is always something beyond logic and language. Buddhism holds that one can be raised to be a Buddha. The potentialities of human nature extend to divinity. Jainism makes the discrimination between Atma and Anatma. Their arhat attains the knowledge of the Atma. Christianity says, the kingdom of God is within you. The spirit of man is the candle of the Lord, say the Jews. And Saint Paul observes, know you that you are the temple of God, and the Spirit of God dwelleth in you? Okay. In different ways thus, all the great prophets have called us back to the realization of the deepest self in us, which lies behind the layers of the body and mind. Until man attains it, his goal remains unfulfilled. Spiritual realization is the manifest destiny of man. Until he is able to find his way to the understanding of the Supreme, his heart lies restless. All these prophets of God believed that natural culmination of human development was in the divine. Okay. Now, spirituality does not involve renunciation of the world. On the other hand, spirituality is excellence in action. Yoga karmasu kaushalam. The world at present finds itself in a nightmare condition of tension and conflict, from which it can be rescued and united only by true religion. The world can be really bound together and united at the spiritual level through religion expressing itself in love. And religion signifies two things. One is the inward awareness of spiritual self, and outwardly it is the abounding love for humanity, that is prajnan and karuna. Wisdom and love constitute the true religion. Next we see spiritual communism. Now there should be certain exemplars of conduct of attainment which men have to keep before themselves. These examples are certainly from the rich heritage of India in the form of saints from various religions and regions like Saint Kabir, Saint Tulsidas, Saint Purandardas, Jnaneshwarji, Tukaram, Nanakji, Mirabai, Goraknath, and many, many others who lived in various centuries throughout India. The mystics of all ages have spoken the same language as they are the denizens of the same spiritual world. In divine and spiritual communism, each man gives according to his ability and according to his needs. Every man has to gain for himself the love of God. The experience has to come from within, and the aspirant has to tread the path himself. A real welfare of the state is the company of the saints. When a philosopher talks about spiritual experience, he is neither a Hindu, nor a Muslim, nor a Christian, but he is a citizen of the spiritual world. A mystic's experience not only elevates himself into divinity, but if he philosophizes, he will raise the thinking humanity into a divine knowledge of bliss. Now last we see the philosophy of spirit. So as we look at history, we see that all politics is determined by the prevailing philosophy of a nation. Non-violence and truth are not new principles, but have been advocated from very, very ancient times. And we should remember that a politics cannot succeed without a spiritual basis. Non-violence has been the basic principle of Christianity, Jainism, and Buddhism. Sri Gurudev says that universal brotherhood should be the foundation of our politics during times to come, but this brotherhood could repose only upon a spiritual basis. A study of the philosophy of religion would contribute greatly to bringing together all the creeds and faiths and races. Hindus and Muslims, Nazis and Jews, communists and fascists could never be reconciled by any political or moral theories. It is only when humanity comes to recognize the one spiritual principle which underlies all the things that we can bring about a harmony between different creeds and nations. So one could wish. So what is the solution for bringing all these together? So this is the comparative correlation of Indian and European philosophies, which we have seen already in detail in the last presentation. We want comparative philosophers who will relate Indian philosophy with European thought. So Sri Gurudev says that chairs of philosophy of religion at various universities should be created, where comparative philosophers should be created. And he has given very clear guidance, very clear heads up, very clear indications where these comparisons of various philosophies are together. He has brought Indian top saints and teachings of Indian philosophers immediately with the Western philosophers. It is a huge work which is just impossible for any human being. So it is time that the resemblances between Neoplatonism and yoga, between philosophies of Spinoza and Berkeley and that of Shankaracharya, between Kant's idea of duty and that taught in the Bhagavad Gita, and Tukaram and Christ, thus and other similar such problems should be brought to light and discussed. It is only when Sri Gurudev says that a breadth of philosophy is exhibited in a modern garb that the world will come to know the worth of Indian philosophy. So God, the object of mystical realization, is a spiritual force that is eminent in the whole universe and holds it together. Indeed, philosophy and religion, yoga and bhakti, karma and jnana are so intensely connected with each other that by separating one from the other, you make both important. Thus, though they are both complementary to each other, but they are essential and necessary for the achievement of God. So as Sri Gurudev says that we want people to pierce the rind and reach the kernel, to leave the methods and reach the spirit of Indian philosophy. Let not the dogmatism and method run away the minds of men from reaching the inner meaning of Indian philosophy. That meaning, we assure them, they will find it to be rich and varied. It will favorably compare with any philosophy in the world. And we want anthropologists to take interest in Indian philosophy as a chapter in the world's thought. We want comparative philosophers who will relate Indian philosophy with European thought. We want lovers of truth who would value Indian philosophy per se. And Indian philosophy need not be judged by its utility in it may confer upon man. But as Indian philosophy may not bake any bread, but like it compare philosophies, it will give man God, freedom, and immortality. Even if we choose to look at it from a pragmatic point of view, it may be confidently asserted that it will give satisfaction no less than any other philosophy of the globe. So in conclusion, we say that one God, one religion and one humanity is the essence of Sri Gurudev's message. We believe in the physical transmission of spiritual power, that spiritual energy can enter the physical world, is our firm faith. And there is only one culture, which is the spiritual culture of humanity. The relation of God and man is the basis of this culture. The one real religion of humanity is the religion of God realization, which is the only means of bringing together unity among humans. So finally, we see the pathway to peace. That is, the one religion preached by Sri Gurudev Dr. R.D. Ranade to the rising generation is approach a realized, which is a 5-step process. Approach a realized master, receive the Nama, meditate in silence, surrender, and patiently wait for his grace. When the divine grace grants you his glimpses of divine splendor and the thrills of the divine bliss, then serve humanity under his guidance. And what is the motto of the chairs of this philosophy of religion is to provide a platform to bring together various religions. Provide a platform to bring together various religions and study their resemblances as propounded by their respective prophets and saints. Recognize the one spiritual principle. Correlate Indian and European philosophies to compare the comparative philosophers. And it was his vision to create comparative philosophers by establishing the chairs of philosophy of religion as at Oxford, where in all the universities, in order that humanity might meet in the philosophy of spirit. Presently in 1956 already this philosophy of religion was established at BHU, that is Banaras Hindu University. Earlier they had first department of philosophy and a separate department of philosophy of religion, but now both departments have come together as one philosophy and religion. So, but this is how it is. It is his wish. So let us conclude that let the Lord of the universe be pleased with the literary sacrifice of mine. Let him grant this boon. Let the darkness of evil disappear. Let the sun of the true religion rise in the world. Let universal friendship reign among all beings. Rajadiraj Sadgurunath Maharaj ki jai.
Once again.